Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk some My Hero Academia chapter 158. And first off, I will just apologize for the late upload on this. Just kind of busy with out of YouTube life, and because of that, a lot of things are being delayed. I might not be back to a normal schedule till December at the worst. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I apologize. But hey, here we are. We're going to talk about My Hero Academia chapter 158. Let's just get into it. So this chapter was, in broad strokes, kind of interesting. It's the one that's just kind of fleshing out Shizaki's rationale. But like, I don't know. When I'm reading through Shizaki's things, I'm finding little points that are kind of contradictory. And that's fair because at this point, Shizaki's getting pretty emotionally driven. And even the chapter's title is Shizaki's Abnormal Compassion. So I think that kind of his judgment being skewed in this way, I think it's justifiable. I think you could mount an argument for it. But anyway, yeah, the chapter is pretty simple. Like, we have the majority of it being Shizaki's rationale and what he was planning on doing, and then various little snippets from the heroes. And the topics I kind of want to cover are the one that we started the chapter off with, the whole thing about the mouse. And then I also want to just talk a little bit about Shizaki and what he's talking about justice, because it's an interesting topic for My Hero Academia. We've had a hero like Stain, and sorry, he's not a hero, he's a dark hero or an anti-hero. You know, the author has said that he's some kind of hero. Regardless, we've seen this type of talk in some form before. And Shizaki is just carrying it through to his own vision. And then, yeah, so those will be the main two topics to talk about. Let me just think if there's anything small that we can just cover up through here. Night Eye is still talking about the future that he saw. You know, at this point, there's no more point talking about whatever Night Eye saw because we just don't have enough information to follow up on it. We have observations from Toga noting that Izuku's strong, and that's just going along with the whole thing that Izuku's super strong right now. It's incredible to see, and Shizaki is being thwarted. Let's see, anything else that's of interest? No, I really can't think of much else. We just have the fight mixed in with the flashbacks, and the flashbacks are interesting because we have the characterization or the relationship between Shizaki and Chrono, and then we have the relationship between Shizaki and the Yakuza boss being fleshed out, and then we have the answer as to why the Yakuza boss is sick, even though Shizaki has the ability to fix people. And this was one of the things I was really wondering about because it made me think, well, are there some things that Shizaki just can't deal with? But with this flashback, it's really implied Shizaki screwed something up in his system, which is kind of terrifying, and it just goes to reinforce that Shizaki might not have human value at the top of his priority list. Anyway, overall, it's a relatively packed chapter, so let's just start talking about the concepts that are presented. First off, talking with the mouse, and I'm gonna try and be a bit more I don't know, devil's advocate. I'm gonna be way more devil's advocate for the second point, but for the first point on the mouse, you know, I thought that was interesting, but the important thing here is that at the end it says there is no clear evidence that backs that theory. And so that little blurb at the beginning, when you look at it, I think if you were to make the argument, this is just to give us information as to why Shizaki adopted the rhetoric that he did. I don't think people could argue against you that well, because the thing is, it's introduced in one panel, and then we have the very quick, like, strike down of what it is. It premises that the quirk gene, the quirk manifestation, was the cause of a disease, and then it very quickly shuts it down by saying that there's just no evidence. This is an assumption. We just don't know if this is actually a case. But the importance there was the fact that it was spread by a virus. It was spread by mice carrying a virus, and this opens up the door for Shizaki's whole plague rhetoric. Because if I recall, the Black Death, oh man, is that gonna get the video demonetized? No, let's not think about that. The Black Plague was carried by fleas, I believe, but then the fleas bit the mice, and then the mice would move around, and then that would carry the fleas, which were the carriers of the Black Plague. And the Black Plague, I think, was also a bacteria. But you know, it's pretty cool. Like, we have some parallels being established there with the mice being involved again to some degree. Shizaki read this little picture book when he was a kid, and it was talking about how, again, mice spread something pretty terrible in the world, or they spread something that Shizaki interpreted as terrible. And then we have all the plague mask metaphors and Shizaki's just general issue with filth. It all makes sense with the character. It makes sense why Shizaki is on the rhetoric that people are sick, that people with quirks are sick, and then we tie that back into Eri, where Shizaki is saying like, yeah, Eri is like the one that can fix this. Her power can go and reset the human gene pool and whatnot. And this is where I think things start getting a little bit mixed up, because this is where you start having Shizaki's emotional influence popping in, because this is where you segue over into him wanting the Yakuza to revive themselves. And then he starts talking, well, yeah, with Eri, we're gonna have the situation where we can go and give the villains, you know, the quirk bullets, and then we can give the heroes the serum. Now, one thing, I respect that, because I think that's how you would want to play the situation if you're the Yakuza. You want to like arm both sides and then make profit. The problem here is that Shizaki's rhetoric doesn't really like mesh really well with the idea of healing the world, because what he's doing is like he's saying like he wants to heal the world from the quirk infestation, but then from his business mindset, from his business angle, from the guy that's kind of indebted to the Yakuza boss, you have him saying, well, we could do this and then we'll make profit and then the Yakuza will flourish. And you know, that's cool, but like Shizaki has to also acknowledge that he's not really fixing anything. He's just creating some kind of battlefield. He's just creating a situation where, I don't know, like tables are turned to some degree. Like, look man, like when you just start looking at the hero rhetoric and the anti-hero rhetoric, like to some degrees it just doesn't work. The hero rhetorics, like especially Shizaki, like he's saying like the heroes are an infestation. They say they're sick, they say that it's a phony society that's built up. Like we know Shizaki's rhetoric, but then he adds in things like the hero's concept of justice, like the justice that is right before their eyes. And this is where things get messed up, because we have to remember justice as a concept existed a long time ago. We still have policemen in the world. The policemen and the heroes are ultimately working towards a common goal, which is justice. Now with Stain, you have an issue where Stain took specific problem with the egos of the heroes getting out of control and heroes being motivated by lesser goals over the more noble pursuits. And mind you, like Stain's logic also is very dangerous. The problem with these, well, from my devil advocation point of view, the problem with these rhetorics is that they work only in the general, but when you start looking at individual cases, things get kind of messy. For instance, with Stain, if you look at Ochiko's situation, if Stain ever heard Ochiko talk about why she wants to be a hero, you better believe Stain, given everything we know about him, would most likely try to strike Ochiko down. When you look at Shizaki, he's talking about the heroes are like brandishing like their concept of justice, but it just doesn't work when you consider like what it was like 8 or 10 generations ago in the My Hero Academia world. Like when we look at his statement, and instead you fake heroes irrationally fixed on this tiny notion of justice that sits in front of your eyes. Look, the notion of justice has been around for a long time. Now the only thing is like the quirks obviously give an unfair advantage, but that unfair advantage goes to both sides, both criminals and the good side. And then when you go back to the whole thing about the heroes are licensed professionals, right? They operate within the laws. That's what it means to be a hero. You accept the legal obligations. It's why Izuku needed a pro license. What I'm trying to say here is that when you have that particular line, you fake heroes irrationally fixate on this tiny notion of justice. It doesn't matter if they're irrationally fixated. The fact is, justice as a concept exists, and the only thing that the hero system right now is doing is that it lets people pursue this justice in the public eye. Because otherwise, we would just have the case of vigilantes, where the vigilantes take it into their own hands and they decide to go met out their own version of justice that may not actually adhere with public perception of what justice is. So, you know, this concept of fighting against the heroes and trying to destroy the hero system. Like, yes, I understand. In some shades of it, it's like some heroes just aren't nice. Sometimes the hero system just causes things to be overlooked. People like Endeavor become a thing. People that just want to meet a quota become a thing. But when you have Chizaki's rhetoric here, and he's talking about how he wants to reset the world back into a previous state, you have to wonder, what does that previous state look like? Oh, I know what it looks like. It was a previous state where things were a little bit easier for people, where most men were equal, where one man could usually equal one man in a fight, and where having an organization, bolstering like maybe 100 members would be a good enough deterrent to keep people away, versus now where one man can realistically take out 1,000 others. Like, yes, you could see where Shizaki's coming from. He's talking also about how the Yakuza got cornered, but they got cornered just by, I guess, an easy metaphor of just someone having a better weapon. Had the Yakuza have someone like All Might, I don't know, maybe that version of the Yakuza would have been able to do a little bit better against the heroes. Heck, actually, if we go back to All For One, we know that he created a criminal underworld. We know this man adapted. We know this man could change with the times and still be a good force for evil. So it's just, Shizaki wants to destroy the structure of the world, which is the quirks. All that's gonna do is revert it back to the, I guess, a more simple stalemate. And that is kind of what he is talking about when he says that he wants to take the quirk medicine and the serum and have people just kind of go back and forth around those two items. He is kind of like equalizing things, but he's not destroying the world structure. It's just, I think it's a very incomplete point of view from Shizaki. And I think it's just, this point of view just doesn't work when you apply it. Remove quirks and what are you gonna get? Honestly, what are you gonna get? Oh no, you're just gonna get a system where the police have the most power again, and they're just gonna try and deal with people as they come and go. Like, remember, the police force, they don't use their quirks. They just do their jobs. Also, reducing the situation isn't gonna stop people like Stain. Stain was powerful not because of his quirk. He was powerful because he was skilled. You're just taking away a factor that makes it harder for you to have a business. It's, that's my general thought when I listen to like this rhetoric. But guys, I want to hear from you. What do you think about Shizaki's overall goal here? What do you think about the differing drives that he's kind of presenting, or do you think that this all meshes in some way with his rhetorics? Do you think pretty much all his rhetorics mesh well together, or do you think there's just some holes that are popping up in his logic? Like, again, you take out the heroes, you take out the hero system, and what does that leave you? Well, you're gonna have the age-old concept of justice. You're still gonna have criminal courts. You're still gonna have laws. You're still gonna have the police going after the Yakuza and trying to make busts. You're still gonna have people trying to be above, people trying to have the higher moral ground and trying not to give into corruption that the Yakuza do nowadays. It's just, targeting quirks might have like some really nice short-term effect, but at the end of the day, it's just pretty much kind of evening the playing field. But even Shizaki is saying that the quirks are still gonna be around. It's just the thing. And hey, if we want to play the virus metaphor, viruses mutate. Eventually, one of them will mutate to a point where the quirk targeting drug just doesn't work anymore. I think that would be hilarious. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much it. Overall, it's it was a chapter that explored a character's motives, and when you get motives exposed like this, it becomes pretty interesting to talk about them. But let me know what you thought down below, and again, apologies for the late upload. But yeah, till next time, I hope you have a great day. Additional note on the Black Plague.